Blog Talk Radio. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Stress is Stressing Me Out podcast. I am your host, Maki Adeyemi, and today we will be discussing how to let go of resentment and anger. Before I get into that, I want to talk about a giveaway that I'm doing. I have already tweeted it. August 1st, I will be giving away two $50 gift cards from Walmart, and all you have to do is subscribe to this podcast. If you have already subscribed, all you would have to do is send me an email to sismo1875@gmail.com, and in the subject line, you can put giveaway. If you haven't subscribed to this podcast, I would be honored if you would. And if you have any questions about this giveaway, you can also send the email to sismo1875@gmail.com. Okay, today's devotional. Our devotional comes from the book of Exodus, chapter 12, verses 12 through 19. It says, "I will bring judgment on all the gods of Egypt." And the name of this devotional is Got Your Nose. Why are the statues' noses broken? That's the number one question visitors ask Edward Bilberg, curator of Egyptian art at the Brooklyn Museum. Bilberg can't blame it on normal wear and tear. Even two-dimensional painted figures are missing noses. He surmises that such destruction must have been intentional. Enemies meant to kill Egypt's gods. It's as if they were playing a game of got your nose with them. Invading armies broke off the noses of these idols so they couldn't breathe. Really? That's all it took? With gods like these, Pharaoh should have known he was in trouble. Yes, he had an army and the allegiance of a whole nation. The Hebrews were weary slaves led by a timid fugitive named Moses. But Israel had the living God, and Pharaoh's gods were pretenders. 10 plagues later, their imaginary lives were snuffed out. Israel celebrated their victory with the festival of unleavened bread, when they ate bread without yeast for a week. Yeast symbolizes sin, and God wanted his people to remember their rescued lives belong entirely to him. Our Father says to idols, "Got your nose," and to his children, "Got your life." Serve the God who gives you breath and rest in his loving arms. Okay, so let's get into today's subject. Again, we're going to discuss how to let go of resentment and anger. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time I truly felt overwhelmed with happiness, freedom, and gratitude? If you can't remember, then you may be holding on to resentments. When it comes to dealing with other people, many of us find ourselves helplessly oscillating between anger and fear. We constantly try to find quick fixes to soothe moments of blind rage and alleviate anxious thoughts. However, these solutions are usually nothing more than temporary fixes, which allow us to white-knuckle it through one more day. Meanwhile, the root of the problem continues to fester and get worse until we can't even bear to look at it anymore. But what if you found out that there is a permanent, lasting way to feel less angry and fearful and finally regain control of your emotions? It's called letting go of resentment. Here's how it works. Resentment, anger, and fear are all connected. We become trapped in a self-obsessed cycle of being afraid of the future, angry in the present, and filled with resentment over our past. The antidote to the antidote to fear is faith. The remedy for anger is love, and the solution to resentment is acceptance. And remember, faith and feelings have nothing in common. So what is resentment? Resentment is when a person has ongoing upset feelings towards another person or place because of a real or imagined injustice. One of the reasons resentments are so hard to get rid of is because there is so much bad advice floating around out there on how to deal with them. Exasperated friends may tell you to just get over it already. Therapists might tell you to let it go. Other people may say forget about it, or even more unhelpful, the past is the past. Excuse me, what does any of that generic advice even mean? I can tell you for sure that you shouldn't do the following with resentment. Ignore them, fight through them, lock them in a closet, pretend you don't feel them, try to forget them. Instead, you should do these things. Face them, feel them, deal with them, heal from them. Fake it till you make it. Doesn't work when it comes to deep-seated feelings we have about certain people or situations. When dealing with them, it's certainly easier said than done. How to accept what happened in the past? Before you begin to overcome resentments, you should know the following things. It's a process. It may get worse before it gets better. It requires a great deal of willingness and an open mind. Resentments are negative feelings that you may have been carrying around for years. During this time, they may have done significant damage to your ability to interact with the world. I know it sounds dramatic, but these are often big, deep-seated issues. Don't expect to be able to say a chant and poof, they're gone. You should know that you are embarking on a long and probably painful journey, but the destination is completely worth it. So what are the 4 steps of letting go of resentment? I will tell you on the other side of the break. Four steps to let go of resentment. Okay, here it goes. The 4 steps to let go of resentment. Step 1. Make a list of all the people you have resentments towards. If you do this honestly, then the list should be pretty long. Include anything that gives you an automatic negative feeling. You can also include places and institutions, a school you attended, an airport you had a bad experience in. Nothing is too trivial or too small. Number 2, Next to the person's name, write what they did to cause you to resent them. Again, nothing is too small. If you resent your boss, it may be because that person gives you an unreasonable deadlines, or could simply be because you don't like their hair. The reason for the resentment doesn't have to make sense. It just has to be honest. This is where it will get hard, and you will feel worse than you did before starting. Try to have faith that the end result will be worth it, because it will be. Number 3, now you write what part of your life each resentment affects. If you resent an old teacher who made you feel inferior, you might say that it affects your self-esteem or confidence. The point is to become acutely aware of the specific ways that a resentment is impacting your identity and your ability to feel safe, secure, and loved. Step 4. Next to the reason or cause for the resentment, you're going to write down your part. This is how you have contributed to the problem. Back to our boss example. At this point, you've established that you resent your boss because of unreasonable deadlines. Your part in this problem could be that you never spoke up and asked for less work. This is where honesty and willingness come in. You must be honest about your part and willing to admit it. Otherwise, you may get stuck. So here's my 2 cents. After completing the steps, you should develop a clear picture of who you resent, why you resent them, and the negative ways that it has affected your life and the part you played in it all. Understanding your resentments by breaking them down will hopefully start the process of evolving from a person who constantly lives in a generalized cycle of resentment, fear, and anger, and help you transition into someone who can identify the source of their feelings and target specific areas they want to work on. What is done with the paper afterwards is up to you. Some people choose to share it with a trusted friend. Others burn it as a symbolic gesture of surrendering those feelings. Unlike expensive therapy, and I have my own feelings about so-called therapy in general, this will cost you nothing other than the price of a pen and some paper. So what do you have to lose? So what do you think? What are your thoughts? Tweet me at stressingism or email me at sismo1875@gmail.com. You can find this podcast at Stitcher, Google Plays, Spotify, TuneIn, iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, and iHeartRadio. Until next week, let not your heart be troubled. Relax.